Assuming that none of the top four win Roland Garros, at this moment, who would be your pick to win? Steph, Sasha, Ruud, Rublev, Fritz, someone else? So let me just jump in and say, I mean, I think people will be going a little bit overboard in describing the men's side as super, super wide open because I don't think there are 10 players who can win it or anything like that. I think that's too high a number. I do think in that tier two, when you get outside of Djokovic, Sinner, Alcaraz, where if things were normal, I think we'd be looking at those three as the main favorites. I think it's the tier two and some of the players you named, Tsitsipas and Ruud and Zverev, and then maybe even, I don't know, Medvedev, maybe if he plays a lot better than he did in Rome. That's where the opportunity is for those guys, I think, to maybe win this thing. Of those names, Jimmy, is there one you like the best? Is there one where you see it?
Well, from a tennis standpoint, yes. But I don't trust the mind, and that's Zverev. I think Zverev has everything he needs to have to win majors, even when Djokovic and those guys were playing. He's sort of a bigger version of Djokovic in some ways. He stands further back in the court, I know, but he's so rangy. He can serve huge. His backhand is pure as you'd like. Covers the court incredibly well. Can hit with power and winners when he needs to. It's just when it comes down to the biggest moments, his serve and his forehand will probably let him down. But he's the guy that has the game to be able to do it. And do we know? I don't even know. Alcaraz and Sinner. Do we know where they are? I'm hearing not play. I don't know.
Well, the reports are that a doctor has told Sinner to rest and not to play. The decision hasn't been made, but it's looking pretty shaky. Alcaraz, what I know about him is he's hitting, but not at full speed yet. He is not hitting forehands at a full capacity at this point because of the forearm, but I do think it's looking much more likely that Carlitos is at least going to play.
If Alcaraz can get, I don't trust him that much right now, actually, but if he could get slowly into the tournament, so have a couple of matches early where he hasn't had to extend himself too much as it goes on, he would be dangerous, obviously, for everybody. Ruud is a guy who I'm not as enamored with his game, but I do think that mentally he's unbelievably strong. And it might come down to, in Tsitsipas, he amazes me because he's got a weakness, a glaring weakness on the backhand, but it's not as easy to exploit on the clay. He seems to be able to get away with his backhand, looks a little bit more solid on the clay when he has a little more time, I guess, and he can back up enough and it does, but it's hard to win majors, I would think, with a weakness. And Ruud's backhand to me is a little bit of a weakness as well. So there's two guys with a weakness that you can see. Can they win a major? Maybe in this time frame. Rublev can't get past the quarters, right? He hasn't,
not yet. I think I think this might be the one. I got to see the draw, but
until he gets to at least a semi, because he's been one of the best 10 players in the world for a long time now, and to lose quarters every single time, it seems like at this point it's a mental thing. And I'm sure when he gets to the quarters and they're in the press before, the press is going to say, "You think you're going to finally win a match in the quarter?" And it's just going to put all those thoughts back into his head and make that match. If he gets past the quarters, maybe then Rublev all of a sudden, I'll say, has a chance. He's got to get to the semis first, though, because he's got to get past that match.
Yeah, it's not going to be easy. And I don't even think at this point, I think usually the press.
Yeah.
And I don't think the press needs to remind him. I think this is one of those things that's so big that the awareness level.
The press will remind him.
Even if will remind him, 100%.
Put it away, it will be asked.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
I'm with you. I think this is a hard question to answer. Zverev, I've kind of made look. We've both watched Zverev for what, like 8 years now at the top of the game, and it's like you can look at the tennis and be like, I think he's going to do this, I think he's going to do that, but at the end of the day, it's like he needs to prove that in crunch time that he can do it, because it's broken down for him too many times.
And that's the problem. He's proven that he can't do it.
Exactly
It's
right.
biggest.
So it's
He's had
hard
the
for me.
Yeah, the team final at the U.S. Open, 2-0 up.
Yeah.
And lost a 2-set lead yet in his career. Anyway,
I'll tell you, of that group, I think Tsitsipas is the person who I think I'm the highest on right now, because I do think he is fearless on big points. He looks
I
to
agree
make
with
things
that.
happen. And I mean, right now, the backhand in the baseline rallies and even the return, it doesn't look that exploitable to me at the
No,
moment.
you're right. It doesn't. I don't know what happened because it was horrible for about a half a year. He was barely hitting the ball on the strings when you got it into his backhand. And you're right. At the moment, it looks pretty good. And I also agree with you that mentally, if he has the opportunity, he's a guy that believes he's gonna go ahead and win if he can, if he has the chance.
Right. Some people might push back on us and they'll say, look, he's got a bad record in finals. But I mean, I just think from watching him play over the years, I don't fear that if he gets a short ball on the forehand on a big point, that he's not going to rip it into a corner.
Three.
Yeah.